Hello, this is Elizabeth Clare Brewington, and I am so delighted to have one of my winners on with me on Zoom. So many of you might have seen Richard Morden at the Empower America, and then we did Empower Global. And we've been doing a lot with emotional intelligence, and many of our clients have really been very pleased in having him on the show. And so I said to Richard, I said, let's do a great interview because he has really been doing some amazing work and we needed to catch up on all the great things he is. He is the winner of the Brightside most watched video and is extremely popular on social media and on his video went viral because of the information that he gives, which is very reliable, very trustworthy, and very credible. And so, if you are struggling today with anger, getting angry at the news, getting angry at the economy, you're having relationship issues, divorce issues, or you suddenly find yourself alone, widowed, and you don't know how to cope with the current situation. But whatever the relationship issues you have, I want to introduce you to best in class, a fabulous person who can help you through that journey. And his approach is really common sense and hands down. And it's really his experience that he shares with you. So, Richard, tell us a little bit about you and your quantum approach, and please share with us your story and your journey.
Well, thank you very much for that lovely introduction, Elizabeth. Story like many, grew up small town Ontario, farming community, knew how to work hard. I knew how to be accountable, honest and all those things, but I had a very, I would say, harsh father who believed in very strict rules and that. And what it did, I taught was good physical skills, but the emotional and mental skills were very struggling because we weren't allowed an expression. We were not allowed our emotions. We're literally there to, do what we were told. And again, the rigid rules were there in many ways. So I learned from that in what, great skill sets and sense of my accountability, my ability to work and be a good person. But again, the emotional side was really struggling. And it took many years. There was shyness. There's a lot of times I lacked the ability to communicate effectively. But what I did do, I saw my siblings struggle and I sort of knew what not to do. I saw their kind of, and loved them all dearly, but a lot of lessons were life. I'm not doing that. So I chose a path of what I call self-care. I chose to look after myself in many ways and then married later on, and then the turning point for me was when my wife, first wife passed in 2013, suddenly with a brain aneurysm, and I'm suddenly, single father with two teenage kids. And so I realized, what do I need to do here? Like, how do I manage myself in this sort of crisis situation? And I just discovered emotional freedom technique on a webinar series, and I was watching and I thought it was helping a little bit and I thought, okay, I'm going to try this to help myself because I knew I wanted to be present with my kids. I did not want to be a grieving father. I didn't want to be angry, but I grew up with intense anger. So I found a 3-day course and I thought I'll be working on my wife's grief because, this is what you do. This is where I want to be. And she wasn't even on the radar. I had some traumas experienced like that released from my body that has happened decades earlier. And I was really very visceral and opened up my eyes to what else is in there. Because again, I grew up angry, but it wasn't something no one saw. It was an internal kind of burning for me. So tried to find some other people to work with as far as learning this AEFT thing and this tapping. And then I found another mentor, now my mentor teacher in 2014, and I took the 3-day course again. And then I went into her 8-month program of Harness Your Powers and became a certified practitioner. And that was fundamental for me, life-changing, because the lady Nancy Forrester was a retired psychotherapist, so had extensive background in the world of emotional and neurological processing, and so really helped unpack my journey of who I am as a person, who I am as, and my identity. And again, all of it helped me keep me on track to be the father that I wanted to be for my kids as they were going off to college. And it worked. We had a good support system. I did my part. They finished school. They're now, 30 years old, have great lives. And like I said, I did my part for being there emotionally and physically for them. So I wasn't pulling them into a grieving father. I was very expansive in my life, and I allowed myself to really experience new things. And then I took it in through my work career, finishing that into my now coaching career, because I thought it gives me something I enjoy doing. I enjoy this work immensely. I love the learning with people. I love discovery, and how I connect with people now as a, this is my next career, and I'm enjoying the connection of people. And what I saw quickly was people with repeated patterns in my career, repeated patterns of conflict, repeated patterns of discord. And I thought, why is it? Because they would change departments, they would change situations and still have the same problem. So, as we know, the term is wherever you go, there you are. And we think because we've changed something, but we haven't changed our inside. And that's what I'm about, changing the inside. And a quick sidestep side note, when I saw the movie The Secret 2006, all I got from that, nothing expansive, but I realized you create your life by the way you think. And then I realized after, you create your life by the way you think and feel. And that's what I work with people. What are you thinking about, and how do you feel about that? And that's where I step in and say, what do you want to create?
Wow, it's amazing. And really, sometimes, I know people want to do this themselves, but having a coach like you is what we would recommend, because as you put it very clearly, it takes time, and having someone to help you along the way makes your journey so much easier than trying to do it yourself. So tell us a little bit about these quantum approach services, that if somebody wanted to work with you, what is the process, and why do you recommend that we should do it this way?
One is, we're not able to do this ourselves because your system has almost self-protection. So a lot of times we've had very deep traumatic incidents. Like with one of the things that was unpacked or just uncovered in 2013 that I had forgotten about, in a way of how the effect was my brother's suicide in 1988. I looked after all that process, but I had no emotion at the time other than maybe 20 seconds of tear. And then I'm very pragmatic, take care of business. That was such a visceral release in my body. There's no way I could have touched that myself. My system needs a witness. Your system needs a witness, and a compassionate witness who, what we say, is offering space for you to have this experience. And it's all present time, and someone who, again, offers or holds that space for you is really vital. That I'm not involved in anybody's story. I'm there as a witness. I'm there and I'm a guide for these experiences to take place. So that's really important. I'm not a dialogue person per se. I have physical tools. My process with somebody is there. We do a little set. We do an interview process. We do an assessment and work. I teach and work with physical tools like the EFT for tapping, because I'm about regulating your nervous system, calming it down, because we don't realize how much over the years we think we're calm, but I mean, that was a trauma that was in my life for all those years, and what I grew up with. This stuff compounds in your nervous system. It really, and it contracts it over time, and we feel as you get older heavier and heavier. It's written in there. It's material says, when you have had a lot of emotional discord, it physically affects you, and this is where a lot of illnesses come from. It's documented. So people do get sick when they're older for unknown reasons. Illnesses develop, body aches and pains start to develop, and from emotional. And trauma doesn't have to be there's a difference. Traumatic, like, yes, we have trauma from people who go to war who work in emergency services, but a lot of trauma is subtle. The constant sort of, degrading of a relationship, the constant sort of teasing or bullying that shows up in subtle ways, or maybe you have a really high risk, like doing some experience that's has a lot of tension. And we think, well, that's a high, this is my job I work with, but, this is how we're supposed to work, all this pressure and tension. But over time, that invades your nervous system and it causes incredible destruction, in your gut and all kinds of things. So, to have someone even to talk about this, because we think we're supposed to live like this. We think we're supposed to do all these things and just grit our teeth and bear it. And we don't know how to process it. And for a lot of my work is one is I'm a adamant on self-care. I take care of me first because I had to do that when I became a single father. Still as a practitioner, I work with colleagues on a regular basis to regulate my nervous system. This is part of my emotional fitness that I am for myself and who I am with a client. So I'm always present. I'm always available to the client, and I'm a guide with the client as they're working through the process. And what I offer clients is their own agency. I'm not there to make decisions for you. I help you understand your own process and your own decision making. So that is a neurological sort of strength. You realize I chose this, I did this, and because it's all about your journey. I'm a witness to your journey. You are the one making the choices. You are the one taking action. You are the one engaging and building your strength. And this allows you to continue that process, not just from a mental process, from an internal gut response of connecting to your intuition, connecting to that gut feeling, feeling your body, feeling the sensations, trusting yourself in these processes to number one, the relationship with yourself, and then the relationship to other. I'm all about teaching about self because you are the most important thing here, and you are what are going into your own relationship to self and others.
Wow. That is so important, guys. I mean, don't try to take this on yourself. We spend money on dressing up and looking good, but if your inside is suffering, you really need to stop all the other investments and invest in yourself. And get an appointment. And the first session is completely free, so it's a discovery call. And get in touch with Richard. I'll make sure that his website link, which is Q Approach, is available to you. And get in touch with him and make an appointment today. Don't waste time. Don't dilly dally. And get these things sorted out so that you can have a more fulfilling life. And as he talks about time sweeps, how does somebody get to living their life to their full potential?
Well, again, I teach physical tools first because this is the process of it's like physical fitness. You start with nutrition, you start with putting good things in your body. Well, with the regulation of the tapping and that, you start to calm your body down. And then from there, we work on what is the conflict, what actually is going on in your mental mind, what's going on in your external dialogue. But the first part of it, because the physical side you can do it, I still tap every day. Something's going on, we're being something's happening. I just finger tap. I teach people simple tools. I teach people physical tools for regulation. So that's there. So you've always got that as a go-to because we're never just calm. You're driving to work, you've got, somebody's cut you off or there's delays in traffic. You're trying to get through to a call line for help with your computer. So of course you're getting upset. We get irritated. We get irritated with our partners. And sometimes you sit like, you're sitting at a party and like, you're just irritated. And they did nothing. It's just what's going through your system. So you have these tools to regulate yourself. It's, like my wife said, it's like, I'm not mad at you, but I don't know what's going on. I said, I'll just go for a walk and let you have some space. Because we're human beings, we're emotional creatures and allow ourselves to have these expressions, because we're not wrong for having them. But to be fully present in ourselves that we can, first of all, be available to me. I'm available to me. Then I can be available to my wife and others because I'm taking care of the most important person, me, for right now. Then that's who I bring to the table each morning when we have our coffee.
Very true. Very good. And you see how easy Richard is, so approachable and so easy to talk to. Because the other thing is, you don't want somebody to, set goals for you. You need to do this yourself. And so you want somebody that you're comfortable with, that you can talk to, and you can. So we are now going to do emotional empower prosperity, which, according to many gurus and monks and intellectuals, they have said that the highest achievement in life is prosperity. Because when you find your soulmate, when you find happiness, when you have a family, when you find yourself, these are all levels taking you to the top. But when you can pay your bills and when you're comfortable financially as well as internally and healthy and physical and all the other things, that is your highest attainment of happiness. So we are at that point now. We've been doing emotional intelligence for 4 months, and we are now at the highest peak. So we hope that you will join us on the 22nd and the 23rd, and we will take you to the top, as they say. So we are planning to have an outstanding event, and we hope you'll all join. And so, Richard, what do you think about prosperity and emotional intelligence? Now,
Well,
prosperity
again,
doesn't mean that you have to be wealthy or anything. It's just that you have to reach that point where you're satisfied with where you are.
yes, in a sense that we get caught in comparison. And really, this is all an individual journey. So the prosperity of feeling, with your relationship with with yourself and your partner, there's a sense of, I always say, a shared sense of humor is important. But having to be able to engage in a regular, manner of ease without all the distractions. And the world out there is to almost designed to distract you,
Yes.
to put you in sort of states of, tension. And, we watch the news and we get all kind of caught up in that. And I mean, personally, I haven't watched TV in many years. I really focus on my own care of what I really careful what I watch. I'm careful what I look at, so I'm present with myself. I'm not in any kind of difficult situation, internal dialogue. I'm very usually pretty rational. But when I have days that I'm like, some days I'm off kilter, I just go for a walk. That's how I process. And the emotional intelligence is a big word. It's a big term because it's a spectrum of a number of different components. But really, when you can emotionally regulate yourself, and that's my first premise, and this comes from my coach, calm your nervous system, you have greater availability for higher frequencies, emotions in your body. That's physical, that's physics. When we have these tension and trauma, we don't have that. We're in a low frequency. So when we have that expansive, we can be states of calmness and peace, and sometimes, and we don't have the racing mind. And then we have more awareness, because more awareness, for ourselves and our partner, and more engagement. You walk in a door and say as a guy, your wife is making something to eat, what do you need? Can you cut some vegetables up? Little things, how you help each other. And we're so caught in, sometimes we have to have these big expressions and these big things and these big events. And life to me, is 1,000 subtleties. You walk in a door and you offer help, you take the garbage out, you do simple things to help each other, you acknowledge each other. Of the 5 love languages: time, touch, words of affirmation, gifts, and acts of service. What do those mean for you, and what do you mean those mean for your partner? What are they? They change over time too. What does touch mean? A tap on the shoulder, a little, hey, how's it going? What do words of affirmation mean? Like, how are you, honey? What's going on? Like, are you okay? Can I get you coffee? The simple stuff that you acknowledge each other. I bring my wife coffee in the morning. It's just a simple say, but it's an expression of our love for each other. Simple acts of service. How do we acknowledge? So it isn't the big diamond ring. It's how we treat each other, how we treat our children every day. And when we raised our kids when young, the dinner table was our safe space. You came to the table, you ate, you enjoyed, there wasn't about contention. It was about just being together. And I think when you look at studies, the dinner table is the key component for family connection, 100%. So it's so many layers, but the simplest is finding ways to calm yourself down, looking around. How do I offer myself in ways that supportive to my family, to my kids? Like when my kids were young, what do you need? Well, I need to go to the library. Let's go. What they need for resources. How do you do little simple stuff? And without and offering some insights, oftentimes with others, without judgment. I grew up in a sense of where I was always, there was a critical side of what I experienced growing up, and I choose to be more informative with my kids when there were situations going on and say, well, let's look at this way, let's try it this. So it wasn't a sense of judgment, it was a sense of informing. And it worked, it worked for our kid or ourselves, and sometimes even with our partners. Like, can you do this? Because sometimes I feel awkward when this happens. So, whether you have a dialogue, safe time at night to just discuss the day of what's going on without judgment, offering points of view and things like that. So you have sharing. And with the emotional work, when contention does rise, it's almost like you're the observer of it. You're not going into an old pattern of fight or flight, or this conflict that really, we grew up where you have to try and win the fight. It's not about winning, it's about observing and engaging. So both of you walk away going, okay, all right, I understand. So there's energy, but it's not harsh.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
discovery. That's a big difference. Discovery is huge point, and then you look back later and you feel good about yourself in the dialogue, and you feel good about your partners and your contribution to the dialogue.
Amazing. Wow. That's pretty powerful stuff. Yeah. So how do people connect with you? How do they find you? And what's the first step? I know we talked about it a little earlier, but let's put it.
One is social media. Social media. I have a
Let's
website.
let me share your website so people
Yeah.
can see. Um, all right. So the first step is to go to Richard's website, which is qapproach.com, which is quantum approach. So
Yeah.
I'll let you talk to us about it.
Well, again, it's got a list of, as websites say, of things I do like that, and some basic stuff. Again, I'd like to do more with it to upgrade it, but at this point, again, but I talk about the healing power of EFT. That's my fundamental go-to, because it's a simple process of teaching people about the tapping. And the big point of that is you can teach this to kids. Little children can tap and regulate their nervous system. Sometimes the child's, having a stress point, you can tap on their fingers for them. So again, we keep it simple. The tapping works because it just taps on the meridians, which are connected to your organs, which are holding the body. Your body is the holder of your emotions physically. Your body is also the holder of your emotions and your relationships. That's another part of this. That's why we do the body work. We hold those emotions in regards to relationships in our body. So the healing starts from the inside, and then when you can heal that, it gives you more space to connect to the outside. I want to address something. A lot of times people feel what I call this aloneness or loneliness. Oftentimes that's a very physical feeling. And when you've had a lot of traumatic events, there's a term called emotional isolation. And that's what impacts us so much. We're in situations and we feel internally like we can't connect. And you can say, you look around and you're in a room full of people who love you and connect with you, but those prior experiences may have still not allowed you to embrace or feel present with people around you. And it's a physical reaction to what you have experienced. And a lot of times we get condemned for it because what's wrong with you? You've got all these friends, but because of those experiences, you're not even feeling connected to yourself or anybody else. So you're going to have some odd behaviors. You're going to say some stupid things, because you're just like, I don't know what the heck is wrong with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's, it's not really, we don't realize the impact. And plus, as we said, what we inherited, that there's I think two books, Kessel Van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, and the other one is Didn't Start With You. We inherit generational trauma, and it's in our cells, it's in our DNA. So a lot of things happen sometimes, and we can't figure out why we're feeling so out of sorts or not able to connect, or just, people go into medications, they go into the booze and the drugs and the sex and all kinds of things like that. So it's distractions, and it's like, why am I doing this? I'm a good person. And then we attach shame and guilt and all the other emotions to it. And it's like it's an endless cycle, and all of it feels like crap.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a great story too. Wow. Wonderful. So I want to leave you all with get yourself fixed. Find out what's wrong. Get aware of what's going on. Don't blame it on external factors. Believe me, the world is changing so fast. The AI, the economy, everything. And you could just fall apart because there's just so much stuff going on beyond your control. But what you do have control of is your own self and getting aware and fixing things about you. And it's never about money and it's never about relationships. It's about you. So get yourself fixed up, and then you can be a wonderful partner and have great relationships and great jobs, and all your life will stabilize with that. So with that, get in touch with Richard. He's at uh,
Your approach.
qapproach.com. And any last words before we close?
Well, I want to, if with politeness, I want to offer a reframe because in truth, we're not broken. We're not
Yeah.
broken. We don't need, I would say, fixing, but we need some help to understand what's going on,
Yes.
why this is going on. So when you understand that, when it's not about going back and digging up all this stuff, it's all present time to work with what's present. So again, you're not broken. You've just picked up some things that aren't serving you. So
That's
we
true.
look at it simply that way, and I offer that point of I'm not here to fix. I'm here to help you understand and how you can choose in a greater capacity for yourself and be more of you. So yeah, just give me a call. You can find me in the social media. We'll put the social media below it too. I'm more apt to find me on LinkedIn as well, Facebook, different places like that. But yeah, reach out and happy to have just a chat. Just let you know what's going on. Offer you, if I'm not the person for you, I'm going to recommend somebody else. It's not about me doing everything. It's like I'm just one person who may relate to people, may relate to not, depending on the circumstances.
Excellent. It was so nice to talk to you today, and I look forward to having you back on our show and do some more deeper dives, as we call it. And so, Richard, you're on the Brightside Spotlight, and we're looking forward to do a lot more. And thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And you're watching discoverbrightside.com, where we discover you and we help you to get discovered, and we help you to discover other people. So make sure you go to Richard, connect with him on Facebook, connect with him on LinkedIn, write him a comment, go set up a meeting, go to his website. I'll make sure that all the information is available in the comment section of this video, so you can easily find him. And then just tell us what you thought about the video, and let's hope we get another viral video out of this one. So thank you so much, and you're watching Discover Brightside.
Thank you.